This is squash at its finest, and you're about to get an inside look at hardball squash as it's played and taught by Mark Talbott, for 5 years the #1 ranked player in the world and 4-time winner of the North American Open. Tom Rumpler, with over 12 years experience as one of the country's top teaching pros. And by John Nimick, currently 3rd ranked player in the world and president of the World Professional Squash Association. You'll see Mark Talbott's classic form, as only video can capture it. You'll understand strategy and tactics as the pros analyze hard-fought points. And you'll learn cues to help you set up for shots right each time. So now, let's go inside squash.
What we're about to do today, with a little luck and with a lot of help from my friends, is we're about to take you inside our world. And our world is that of squash. What we share here is that we're all students of the game. We've committed our lives to squash. We've spent a lot of time on the squash court. But most importantly, we are students. We feel that we're continuing to grow in the game of squash.
I personally feel like I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly learning new things about the sport, and I think that's one of the great things about the sport. There are so many new techniques and things you can learn, and I know all of us have picked up many tips from many different pros over the years, and so hopefully some of the things that we've learned and some of the things that I work on can help all of you.
And we can bring these things together here because we've got a great combination. We've got the combination of the #1 player of the game, someone who's been on the court for hundreds of hours hitting these shots and watched them be successful, winning tournaments, winning matches. And we've got a great teacher who's been on the court for hundreds of hours teaching the game and watching and studying the motions and the bending and the movements. And we can bring these things together and include a third element that may be the most crucial, and that is the camera. We can bring the camera inside the court, we can watch the elbow, we can watch the hip, we can see the footwork up close and really study it and translate those things, those images, to some kind of synthesis and understanding that hopefully will make the game more enjoyable and something bright and prosperous for those who are going to play it.
And hopefully with today's work, we're going to show you what we hold dear, the things that turn us on, the buzzwords, the cues, in particular the cues, the things that make us sort of be able to do things we want to do over and over and over again. And so now, come inside our world. Come inside squash.
This is a game of ball striking. The guy who strikes the ball better, more consistently true, wins most of the points. Keeping techniques separate for just a moment, it's silly to talk about how to strike a ball without stating first what has to precede it. Putting it differently, the greatest stroke in the world is worthless if the player isn't ready to strike the ball or is in the wrong place to hit it. There are 3 cardinal rules of ball striking. First comes anticipation. Second, there is racket preparation. And thirdly, there is the appropriate address of the ball. For anticipation, we're talking about the watching of your opponent and his preparation to hit the ball. That information will give you all you need to know to move to the appropriate spot from which to make the return. Racket preparation means keeping the racket head back and the furthest thing to the back wall at all times as you move to the ball. Addressing the ball properly is making quick, efficient, and swift movements through the court to set up so that the ball is diagonally across from you and you can swing through properly. Anticipation, preparation, address. The cardinal rules of ball striking. One of the most basic elements of the game is the grip. Without the proper grip, the security of consistently clearing the tin and stroking the ball with confidence will be diminished. The face of the racket should always be open on both the forehand and the backhand. A good guide would be to place the V formed by your thumb and index finger on the top left of the grip if you're right-handed, or on the top right if you're left-handed. On the forehand, the palm should always be up, and on the backhand, the knuckles should always be up. Spread your index finger slightly for better control and hold on firmly. Focus on each player's hand during these segments and watch how they hold the racket and control their wrist so they can continue reproducing each stroke. The right grip leads to the right shot.
We're going to jump into a forehand, and I'm going to teach Mark how to hit a forehand in a crash system. I'm going to offer just 2 cues to get the thing going right, and then we'll go back and look at it, breaking it down. Maybe racket. Slap my hand. Slap it harder. One more time and stop at contact. What we call this is a cocked wrist. By having a cocked wrist, the wrist has been back and up. And what that means is we're now presenting a knife edge here. Hopefully, every single time Mark goes to strike a forehand, he's going to be hitting with a knife edge. Now, tennis players are prone to roll over a bit. They like to turn. They think they're imparting a topspin. Racquetballers do a lot of hinge. They shouldn't, by the way, but they're trying to do some hinge. And people who get tired tend to just cup. They tend to drop their hand. You know that feeling?
Right.
Your wrist just sort of falls down.
Common mistake.
Now, if we give him a racket and put the right grip on it, then by this knife edge down here suddenly goes up to the knife edge of the racket. And this is a big theory, the knife edge theory. So if he now, by having prepared his hand in a knife edge-like fashion, he can now strike the ball with what's called an open face. Right?
Right,
Okay.
straight through.
So, upon recognition that's a forehand, the first thing you do is you prepare your hand. And you know exactly how now. You prepare your hand. The second part is having prepared your hand, you can't do much yet unless you do what's called a uniturn, which is the next big theory. So preparing your hand.
As you turn, prepare your hand, and you turn as one unit, in one piece, as a top or a spring. You turn with your shoulders, your chest, and your hips, all in one motion, as you pivot your feet. Okay? So you prepare your hand, and you do a unit turn. You turn your hips and your shoulders and your chest.
Let's do a unit turn with the ball. Prepare your hand, unit turn, and go. Again. Last one. Now, what do we concentrate upon? We concentrate upon throwing forward to the ball. We throw our elbow forward, or we throw the butt end of our racket forward.
Okay, it's very much like throwing a stone or skipping a stone or throwing a baseball. And in order to do that, we need to get down at the level of the ball. We need to bend our knees.
It seems to me like that's such a good metaphor because imagine trying to skip a stone by standing upright, by throwing overhand, by catapulting, but instead you get down to the level of the lake, you pull your stone back, and through a coordinated body motion, from working from the bottom up, you're going to unwind out and across and forward.
And throw the edge of the racket straight out at the ball, a straight beeline to the ball. You're throwing that knife edge just like you're sweeping the top of a table, okay? You're throwing the knife edge at a straight beeline to the ball.
Where do you stop your follow-through?
I go ahead and follow straight through with my racket head.
Straight through, and the wrist has centrifugally gone from there to there.
Right, 180 degrees.
Great, great. Let's hit a couple more. It never ceases to amaze me how many people come to me for a backhand lesson. It strikes me as being so much the easier stroke.
It's a little more natural.
More natural, I think it's reasons more natural is on a backhand, you're swinging away from your body, while on a forehand, you're swinging into your body. I have an identity crisis on my forehand about every 2-3 months, where my backhand has been my old friend for as long as I've been playing squash. Let's look at the stage we have to go through. The similarities are, the instant I recognize it's a backhand, I'm going to prepare my racket head, which means cock my wrist. Now the difference between my backhand wrist and a forehand wrist is there is none. On my backhand wrist, my knuckles are up. You see the curve here.
That automatically opens the face of your racket.
Automatically opens the face a whole lot. On my forehand wrist, my wrist is cocked, but my palm is up now, or my knuckles are down. Okay? So the first step is this. Second step is I like to imagine taking my racket shaft parallel to my upper arm. This makes, if you will, a little square. All right? Thirdly, I'm going to imagine having a rifle sight pinned to my shoulder. By having prepared this, and now looking over my shoulder, and I necessarily am going to address the ball, hopefully from far enough away. Okay, and then finally, from here, I'm going to imagine unwinding. It's going to start from the bottom up. It's that thing of concentric arcs again. So I unwind from the bottom up. The first thing on my arm, which is going to be moving, is my elbows coming around. Then my racket butt is coming around.
So it's like you're going a straight beeline to the ball, throwing that knife edge out at the ball.
Precisely. And just to say something different, the people who are having trouble with their backhands, those guys who are coming in for all those lessons, it's usually not because their technique's so bad. It's usually because they've not been addressing the ball right. It's those cardinal rules we talked about at the very beginning. If the guy is too close to the ball, he can't turn away from it. If he is letting the ball come at him, he tends to want to fold his wrist to make up for it.
Ends up just kind of pushing at the ball.
Pushing at the ball and getting that limp wrist look. And usually the way I try to solve it is I try to first get them to set up better. As they set up better, now you can start talking about the mechanism involved, which is getting tightened here and unwinding. So now let's consider a different case of hitting the ball out of the air instead of the ball off the ground. We're talking about a volley now. What do you see as the differences?
Well, I think mainly you've got to, obviously you're going to have to raise your hand a little bit higher, okay? I like to cut down on my backswing a little bit because you don't have as much time.
That's saying a lot.
Those are the two main things that I see as a difference.
You still keep your racket face open?
Yes, definitely. Still keep my racket. I don't turn and close the face of my racket. I still keep my racket face open.
Okay, but it's a different kind of open. On a ground stroke, your face is tilted open. You're swinging on a horizontal plane most of the time.
Correct.
Here, it seems out of the air that people at first say, well, how am I going to hit a ball when it's out of the air this way? Well, it's not a problem. If you can hit the ball with a spin here by putting it on a vertical plane some of the time, it's no different. So I'd say anywhere from waist height on up to vertical height, racket horizontal to vertical, the feeling is going to be the same, even though it's a different shot.
Okay, and you're still following through with the head of the racket, right? You're not just blocking the ball.
That's just like on the stroke, following through, the head should be imparting a heavy spin because of the knife edge going at the ball.
Right.
And then depending upon what shot you're hitting, it depends on how that knife edge attacks the ball, whether you're catching it from behind, over, under. It depends on the height of the ball and the shot intent.
What sort of metaphors do you like to use?
It's a good one. I think you may volley it a little bit different, but I like taking my hand very close to my ear. It's particularly good in softball. When I take my hand near my ear, I call that a football quarterback, cocking for a pass. By my hand being here, I can very easily open up and throw towards that corner. I've opened up the corner to attack. I can go side, front side, but here, I'm ready. Another one is a little bit like a dart. Okay, that's when you're hitting a real touch volley. Right. And a third one would be maybe saluting.
So you're still making contact with that ball out in front of you.
And really trying to emphasize there that the knife edge is leading, and it's doing something to the ball.
Okay, good.
You want to do some?
Let's try.
Where does the point start? When does play begin? It begins with the serve. We've basically got two kinds of serves. We have a lob serve and a hard serve. We want to take our time with the serve because this is when we have the chance to collect ourselves and to begin the point. You wouldn't see a golfer going up to a golf green and striking a putt just on the first time he approached the ball. He looks at the putt, he collects himself. It's the same thing we want to do in squash when we begin to serve. We want to collect ourselves, we put our foot in the quarter circle, and we want to take our time to prepare for the point. Once we've done that, the first weapon of squash will be the lob serve. It's used most of the time. It breaks high on the front wall and drops into the back of the court. It's the primary serve that you use. To hit the lob serve, you want to bend down, get your weight low, firm up your wrist, start with a low motion, come underneath the ball and lift the ball up to the front wall with a high arc so that it comes off the front wall, again with that arc, meets the side wall, and drops softly into the back of the court.
John is aiming to hit the ball about 2/3 of the way across the front wall, hit high up on the side wall, up above the service box, and drop into the back court without catching the back wall on the fly.
The serve is the first time that you begin to use length. It's the first time it's a set opportunity to get the ball behind your opponent. It's the time when your opponent is the furthest back in the court, and it's a stable opportunity for you to get an advantage. So take advantage. The hard serve is when you get to tee off. The hard serve is a great change of pace, a great alternative to the lob serve, keeping your opponent off balance. You want to hit the hard serve alternately when you get a chance in the court to change the pace. You hit it with a very specific technique. You don't want to come sidearm on the ball. You don't want to come overhand on the ball. You want to effect a 3/4 motion, a diagonal motion through a plane that's about 45 degrees in here, through as hard as you can to the front wall. You turn your shoulders. This is a chance for you to really get your momentum generated in a twisting fashion. Turn your shoulders to the back wall. Firm up your wrist. Begin the motion like a baseball pitcher would from the mound, almost as if you're going to throw that ball down to the plate. I have my wrist cocked. I throw the ball up, and I am going to twist and hit that ball as hard as I can to the front wall. When John's hitting that hard serve, he's going to hit 3 different types of hard serves. Number 1, he's going to hit that hard serve and aim directly for the back corner and try and get the ball to run right back up the sidewall. He doesn't want to catch the sidewall and then the back wall. He wants to try and hit the back wall and run the ball right up along the sidewall. Occasionally, he's going to hit a hard serve and break it off the sidewall and right into me and handcuff me. And then the third kind that John might throw in occasionally is he's going to hit the ball right at me, aim right for my head, and try and surprise me with that hard serve. One of the most frightening aspects of the game of squash. Let's take you inside the return of serve. The return of serve frightens people most because it's high over their head, it's in an area they feel they're weak, and they're unsure how to position themselves. But I think there are a few easy cues that you can remember to make that task simpler. Okay, when I'm standing to return the serve, I set about 2 feet behind the red line, facing the sidewall. Now, the first thing I want to think of is I just want to decide to take that ball out of the air. I don't want to let the ball play me. I just want to make the decision. I'm going to go ahead and take the ball on the fly before it gets to the back wall. Number 2, I want to be already set and prepared with my racket in my hand before the ball reaches me. I don't want to be rushing and all of a sudden pull my racket back right before the ball gets there. I want to be prepared and set before the ball reaches me. And number 3, I want to stay away from the ball and step back into it and hit the ball with my front foot when I return that serve. I don't want to be hitting that ball with an open stance like this. I end up pulling the ball out into the middle. I want to stay away from it and step back into it and hit the ball off my front foot. So those 3 things are really important to remember when you're returning that serve. The return of serve is difficult, and it really does. A lot of people get worried about it, and it gives a lot of people trouble. But in general, you're going to hit probably 70% of your return of serves down the line. So that's the shot that you want to practice the most, to be able to take the ball out of the air, take it comfortably and safely, and play the ball into the back of the court. We've talked about stroke production. We've seen how to hit the ball. We've gone through the proper form, the way to turn and bend and twist and to make contact with the ball. Now we need to talk about function. What to do with it, where to put it, how to open up the court. And the things we use to determine that function are shots. We've really basically got 3 kinds of shots. We have length, or drives, balls that go into the back of the court, from the front court, keep our opponent behind us. We have angles, balls that are quickly struck, that go across the court, use side walls, or use all 3 walls, balls that are intended for the nick or intended to lay down, ones that are fast reactive shots. And we have drop shots. Drop shots are those soft touch shots that pull an opponent all the way from the back of the court right up to the front wall, right near the tin. They really use the extremities, as do some of the other shots, but they're the ones that are very softly hit. So we have 3 kinds. We have the length, the ball that goes to the back, we have the angle, and we have the drop shot. And these are really the most fun parts of the game. The shots themselves are so distinct, they're so different, and the way in which we hit them puts us in control. If we execute those shots properly, we're able to stay on the tee, we're able to stay in the middle, and
and we're going to make our opponent really go round and round. Some shots are fun. Some shots are quick, like those three walls and those reverses. Some, like the rails and the cross courts, you got to roll up your sleeve, and those are real work. But they make the biggest difference in this game, and they make the hardball game so much fun because of those reactions and those quick reflexes. So right now we're going to take you through those shots step by step. We'll show you all of the different ones, and we'll show you the ones that are going to work best for you and make you a better player. Rails and cross courts are the fundamental building blocks of the game of squash. Without them, the rest is fluff. You've got to get your rails and your cross courts down, repeated endlessly, over and over, so that they're your best friend and they're your most reliable weapon. A rail is a ball that goes for length. It's hit deep into the court. The purpose is to open up the court by making your opponent run to the corners. A rail shot hugs the wall, comes down from the front wall, along the side wall. The bounce, hopefully, is somewhere in the quarter circle. That's a good goal for length.
You're trying to get your rails to come tight into the side wall, about the service box.
Right, and bring that ball deep into the back of the court. Right. We need to make a distinction here. There's perfect length, and there's effective length. Perfect length is the ball that bounces twice before it reaches the back wall. That's a winner. Effective length is a ball that goes past your opponent, breaks past him, and moves him into the back of the court. So there are two kinds. When we talk about rails also, we want to make sure we're clear that there are two ways to hit them. When you're in front, you want to hit the ball down. That's the time to come in a fairly straight line down on the ball to try and get those two bounces.
Hit the ball lower on the front wall up when you're up in the front of the court.
Right, exactly. When you're in the back of the court, you want to play a little safer. You have to hit the ball with a parabolic arc. You've got to get the ball to rise a little bit and then come to the front wall.
A lot of people tend, when they're pinned in the back corners, they tend to hit the ball 6 or 8 inches above the tin, whereas they should raise the ball a little bit higher in the front wall, maybe hit it a foot below the service line.
Exactly.
Get that ball deep back in the corners.
Right. If you hit a tin from the back of the court, you really need to make an adjustment. You don't quite understand how to get the length and how to get the ball into the back.
You should be playing rails, I'd say, 75 to 80% of the time. I think people tend to hit too many cross courts and the ball comes out in the middle too much. You never really get hurt with that rail shot.
Right. It's sort of the trench warfare of squash. It's where the damage is done. You hit rail after rail after rail, and you open it up so that your opponent makes a mistake. You've got the court. You finish it. You use that opening. So you keep the ball in the alleys. You keep it on the rail. And if you get those shots down, well, then you'll probably be as good as Mark. The cross court is the sister shot of the rail. It's the other basic length shot in the game. It's intended to go from one side of the court across to the other side of the court and break off deep behind your opponent.
There are really two kinds of cross courts. First kind is where the ball hits the front wall and catches the side wall and breaks deep into the court. And the second kind of cross court is where you hit the front wall and then it hits the floor first and shoots directly back into the back corner. Now the big thing you really want to be careful on these cross courts are that you want to hit that ball way out in front of you and catch it early in your swing plane. Whereas the rail, you might make contact with the ball right about at this point off your front foot. That cross court, you want to hit that ball way out in front of you.
There's another distinction we should make about the cross court, and that is where are you intending to hit it? What's your contact point? In general, if Mark and I are having an exchange on the tee, and we're playing a basic backcourt game, my contact point for the cross court becomes the quarter circle, or where the red line meets the side wall.
And that's where most of your cross court's going to be hit.
But if Mark and I are having an exchange that's further up in the court, I want to move my contact point from that spot where the red line meets the wall to one that's further up on the side wall. Because if I hit a shot that goes past Mark's shoulder and it goes back to that quarter circle,
I'm going to cut that ball off and volley it and shoot it right back down the alley.
And I'm out of that point. So I want to move my contact point up directly across from where my opponent is standing. because that makes him extend to the fullest point or the furthest point across the court and reach out to try and cut the ball off.
Just put more angle on that shot.
And that's more difficult for Mark than it would be for him to catch the one that's coming over his shoulder.
It's an effective shot, the cross court, but you just want to make sure that you don't overuse it.
Right.
That's a roll corner. Mark here is hitting what's called a two-wall or a near wall. If you watch him, see he's going to lead with the butt end of his racket. The ball is going to spin off sharply to the side wall and dampen out across the front wall. Let's do another one. Mark, do one off your right foot this time. That's very good. What we like to do here is we're trying to send the butt end of the racket towards the corner. And if we can keep that going, then the racket head necessarily has to dip. And if it dips, the racket head can now get its knife edge on the inside bottom quadrant of the ball. The metaphor I like to use is going bowling. If you were to go bowling, you'd take your forearm and go down the lane. Now you can do it off either foot. And if I do this with a cocked wrist, I can't avoid making my racket head dip. If my racket head's on the inside, the ball has to spin. And that's why I like the shot so much, because it's so easy to learn. There's a second case, which is what we call a bump corner or a jam corner. And let's say your lucky opponent has had the miserable good fortune to hit a ball very close to the side wall. Okay, well, this sort of illustrates one of my themes of the game, which is you use the facts of the situation to your advantage. Here the ball's hugging the wall. Now, if you're going to come running in here with your racket way back and try to slam it, then I think you're both trapping yourself out of position and you're probably very unlikely to hit the ball well. So instead of trying to put your sweet spot on the back of the ball, put your sweet spot on the inside of the ball. And now the only real difference here is you're going to approach more inside than ever, and you're going to stop the follow-through. So here, the ball's dropping on the wall. And what I've done is I've turned a very tough shot against my opponent. So these are just two kinds, or if you will, two techniques illustrating a sidewall, front wall. And it's perhaps the easiest first shot, which I think you can learn if you're going to play short.
There are 3 roll corners hit in this sequence. The first one there off the volley by Mark opens up the court. The second one by me ends up being too hard and comes off the side wall. There it is from the forehand. The third one Mark hits from deep on the right side that sets up the winning shot. Here it is. It's a soft roller. I just get to it. Mark has all the room and hits a cross-court winner.
We're about to talk about the three-wall shot. I like to think of it as the big brother of the roll. It's a more voluptuous big brother. It's a shot where you're hitting side, front, side. Its intention is to nick out. Obviously, the nick is where the sidewall meets the floor. That's the crack. So you're trying to go side, front, sidewall, crack. You can hit it probably from anywhere in the court. The places it's used most is quickly and sharply in the middle court and in a longer swing from the back of the court.
It's an offensive shot.
Offensive shot. It's got that first strike capability to it. If you hit it well, it's just a holy roller, points over, you go back and serve. Want to hit some?
Yeah, let's try.
Hang on. Here we go. We're going to hit short rails and three balls. Great shot. Great shot. Good pinch. Great shot, Mark.
Good.
Good.
It's a difficult shot. It takes a lot of practice to hit it well. I think the big things you want to remember when you're hitting the three-wall is your stroke production is going to be the same as your drives. The big thing is you're just going to let the ball drop a little bit further behind you when you hit it. You're going to have to turn your body a little bit more. So you're going to be hitting the ball a little bit further back in your stroke plane. You want to make sure that you really stay down on the ball. If you pull up, you're gonna hit the ball into the tin. So really stay down on that ball and hit it with that inside-out spin. Okay, so you're gonna catch the inside of the ball when you hit that and cause the ball to spin, hit this sidewall and down into the nick.
There's a metaphor which is probably very revealing on this one. It's called the window theory. You want to visualize that the sidewall is made of glass and that there's an adjacent court and you're looking through the adjacent court to the right front corner. Well, the first advantage of this metaphor is if you're looking through the window and you're looking to sight the corner, it gives you a target. That target the target stays the same even though you may shift position. The more up in the middle of the court you are, the wider you would hit it. The more back in the court you would be, the thinner you would hit it. The target stays the same. Once you get the intuition as to where that target really is, the real value of the metaphor is if you were seriously asked to drive a ball through a window, you would turn. And if you would turn, then that would sort of give you the idea of producing a full stroke, getting it out there. And now, by doing that, instead of the window being open, the window turns into a mirror, and it's going to make the ball go to the opposite sidewall crack, we hope. So, and there's a final little byproduct of this little metaphor. You wouldn't stand in a windowsill to try to aim through a window. You'd get away from the window to release a stroke. And that's the trick. You're going to stay away. You're going to get down to it. You're going to have full extension, and you're not going to baby it. You're going to go for it. If you're going to do it, you're going to do it. It's risky, it's high reward, and it's probably really worth it.
So keep in mind just those certain cues when you're hitting that ball. You want to hit, your stroke is as usual. You want to hit the ball hard and stay down on it and hit it with that inside-out spin. That's one of the most deadly shots in the game. It's called a reverse corner. What I'm trying to do there is hit the side wall and then the front wall and get the ball to bounce twice before it hits the third wall.
Mark's aiming tight to the corner. He's not aiming wide on the wall. He's aiming tight to the corner. He is trying to let the butt end of his racket lead the way so that the head is above the wrist. By doing that, what's going to happen is he's going to get the racket head on the upper outside quadrant of the ball. If you remember back to when we did the roll corner, we talked about how we're letting that racket head get below the wrist so we can get the bottom inside quadrant. So now by getting on top, on the upper outside, we're going to create a spin which goes this way now. That's what makes it dampen out across the front wall. There's a metaphor I've always liked, which is that of a batter. If I'm batting and suddenly a pitch gets thrown in close to me, a famous old batter used to step out into the bucket, it's called. It's like stepping into the water bucket. So when you pull away, that means you've already opened. And if you can get your weight shift here, then naturally you're going to pull into the ball, the butt leads, and you'll naturally get that spin you need to make this a special shot.
So just remember a couple things when you're hitting that. Just remember to open up your stance slightly. Really move into the shot when you hit it. Be aggressive with it. Hit it off your front foot. Don't be on your back foot when you hit that shot. And just remember to keep your wrist up.
As Mark demonstrates with this clear winner, the reverse corner is one of the deadliest counter shots in the game. Here he takes a ball from the backhand side and hits the opposite side wall for a winner.
Good.
I love that shot. That shot really tortures your opponent. It's called a double boast or a side-side front. The ball glances both the side walls and then just lightly grazes the front wall. I usually hit that shot pretty hard.
Mark's got a patent pending at some undisclosed government office right now. Mark's the one who popularized this shot. I think all the pros these days now use it, but Mark's by far the best at it. I like to think of it two ways. We're looking to think of it as a three-wall, except you're going to now make your angle wider. So you're going to set up to hit a three-wall, and you're going to aim a little wider. There's a technical way to do it, which is instead of having to think of that adjustment, instead set up to hit the three-wall, and right at the beginning of the motion forward of your arm, instead of going through with your usual wrist firm until contact, here right at the beginning you let the wrist loosen, and what naturally happens is centrifugally the racket head goes further back. It gives you that requisite extra angle, which is going to give the ball enough momentum to go side, side, front, instead of side, front, side. So once again, You're starting as a 3-wall, you're lining up as a 3-wall, you're swinging hard as a 3-wall, but then right as the racket hand starts moving, the racket head is loosened because of the wrist. You loosen the wrist, racket drop, the racket lags, and you get that extra angle.
So you're hitting that ball hard and fairly low. You want that ball hitting just a foot or so above the tin or lower. And it's a good off-speed pitch, I think, because you hit the ball very hard into the sidewall and it just drops against the front wall.
Do you hit up on it?
No, I hit fairly flat and right into the ball. I sort of think of it as it's almost like a slap. I think the most important thing about the drop shot is, number one, that you want to keep your wrist firm throughout the drop shot. And number two, there's very little backspin involved in the drop shot. Okay, you want your racket to approach the ball at that angle. Okay, so you're approaching the ball with the butt of the racket leading the stroke. You keep your wrist firm throughout the stroke. I think there are two main variations in the drop shot: the scoop drop and the chop drop. Okay, the scoop drop, there's no backswing on it, and you're essentially just poking the ball into the corner. Okay, the chop drop, you have a little bit more time to set up. You keep your racket head above your wrist, and you cut down on the ball. It's a very difficult shot to learn, and it takes a long time to master the shot, but it's very rewarding.
One of my favorite pieces in lessons is I try to explain what the absolute secret to all shots is, which is a pretty big claim. I go up to the front wall, and I stand here, and I ask my students, what do they notice? And they say a bunch of things. And then eventually I point out my knees. I say, what do you notice about my knees? And then they begin to see something very unusual, which is the height of my knee is almost the same height as the tin. Then I ask them a question. I say, what is it, do you think, that enables a good player to hit the ball successfully low over the tin all day long without hitting the tin? And what I think they begin to see is, or they suggest, well, is it maybe bending? I say, yes, it is bending. And what is it that you bend? Do you bend your knee? Do you bend from your waist? Or do you sort of get your butt down? If you're getting your butt down here, think what you've got. You have lowered your swing plane down to the height of the tin. And now, think of that. Think of how anxiety-freeing that is. You're down to the height of the swing plane. The swing plane is down to the height of the tin. How can you possibly hit the tin? Unless you do something weird with your wrist, you're going to be swinging across the table of the tin instead of aiming down to the tin. And where all the errors come is in that 17th point of the last game, 17-all, you think you're going to be able to stand up here and aim to a perfect spot? How about if you're down here? You're down here and you're just taking your usual stroke, and how hard could it be to hit a perfect shot? So the thing you want to remember is all your shots are done by getting down. The penetration of your drives is going to be a function of how low you are. If you're swinging through it, then the ball has a way of carrying. You're putting a little bit of a parabolic part to the ball. If you're aiming down, then there'll be some beauties to be sure. There'll be a lot of balls that tin and a lot of balls that don't make it. So it's getting down to the height of the tin, making your swing plane be across the height of the tin. And now suddenly, you have no more anxieties. I think the most exciting part of squash is not the strategy as much as it's the movement. I think the shot making's lovely. I think the aesthetics of it are great. But what really gets people hepped up on squash is the movement. They see that choreograph around the court where they see that frantic dash around the court. And that's what's exciting. It's what gets the guy sweaty. It's what makes him break his heart to try to get a ball. Bauhaus theory, less is more. The mark of the fine player is that he seems to always have more poise. Instead of him frantically running at the ball and then sort of fending it off or frantically swinging at it, the better players seem to have a lot of time. They have set up well. They seem to have always stopped their feet. So let me suggest to you that a squash court is approximately 600 square feet. And the secret is not in learning how to cover 600 square feet. The secret is learning how to cover up maybe 120 or 130 square feet, which is an internal rectangle. My racket's 2 1/4 feet long. Let's say 2 1/4, 4 1/2. Let's draw a line here. Let's go 2 1/4, 4 1/2, say 7 feet here. Maybe it's up to 140 square feet. There's a corner there, there's a corner there, there's a corner there, and there's a corner there. Whether it's exactly a rectangle or whether it's a little bit more of an oval, that's not important. The important thing is you want to learn to stay on the rug, on the rectangle, and your goal, of course, is to take your opponent off of the rectangle. I dare say that 50 to 60% of the time, a player can hit the ball with both feet still on this rectangle, still standing on the rug. And I dare say that another 25 to 35% of the time, a player can hit the ball with 1 foot still on the edge. Let's say Mark's hit a great rail. I may have to go a little bit off the rug to get it. Maybe Mark's hit a great 3-ball. I may have to go to the end, to the corner of the rug, and then maybe step off of it. But the point is that maybe 80, 85% of the time, you're only moving on a small rectangle. You're not dashing frantically from corner to corner, from wall to wall. How many times have you seen someone just crash into a wall? Well, that means he probably could have stopped maybe 2 steps earlier and reached across to the ball. He would have saved energy, he would have hit a better shot, and he could then have recovered better. The game is in here. The game is you staying on it, trying to maximize your setup, and try to minimize his setup. Try to get him lunging off, and you instead try to control.
I'd like to talk about foot movement for a minute and the most optimal way to set up and move to the ball. If my opponent is on the left side of the court, whether he be in the back corner or up in the front corner hitting the ball, I want to have my feet slightly turned at a 45-degree angle to the side wall. I don't want to be square to the front wall, my feet square to the front wall like this. I want to be slightly turned so I can pivot off my back foot. If he hits it back down the rail, I can take 1 step and cut it off this way. If he hits it cross court, I can take 2 steps and cut it off. 1, 2, and come across. You want to take as few steps as possible. So if he hits the ball to the front court, it's 1, 2, 3 steps, a direct line to the ball. Now it's the same on the forehand side, the right side of the court. My feet are facing a 45-degree angle to the side wall. If he hits a ball to the back court or back down the rail, it's 1 step across and back, recover. Set up again, wrist up, slightly bent. If he hits a ball to the front court, it's 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Same if he hits a ball cross court. 2 steps. 1, 2. Like I said, you want to take as few steps as possible and use the best type movement you can in here, because movement is so important here in the court.
One of the hardest things it was for me to learn was movement in relationship to my opponent. All along, I've been taught from the beginning how the tee was the essential part of the court, and how to own the tee was to win the point. Let me ask Mark now a series of Socratic questions and see if we can sort of elaborate on the idea of what the tee really is, whether the tee is a piece of property, a piece of real estate, or whether it's really more an attitude. Mark, if I were standing directly across from here, and I'm standing just right in front of the red line, and I'm shaping to hit the ball, where would you stand?
Okay, in order to see the ball and get in the best possible position, I'd probably be about a step behind the tee here.
So it's not a geographic location?
No, I'm going to have to move off the tee a little bit in order to see the ball and get in the best possible position to return the next shot.
Let me ask you another one. Let's say, instead of here, I'm not hitting the ball, you've hit a sloppy rail, I'm now here hitting
Okay,
it.
I'm going to probably position myself up in front of you a little bit here.
So you'd be seeing and safe from a bad swing.
Right.
Okay? Let's say now I'm going up front, and Mark's hit a little bit of a sloppy shot. Now I'm moving up front. I'm trying to mask my shot. Mark, where would you be?
I'd have to take a step over here, because a lot of the better players will try and hide the ball with their body, and I won't be able to see it. So I can't just stand over here. I'm going to have to move a step off to the right of the tee over here.
And so again, the geographic tee is not the ideal place to stand in.
Right.
Okay, now you got your thinking cap on?
I hope so.
Okay, this is the hardest one. Let's say you've hit the most miserable shot in your entire career, all right?
That happens to everybody.
And I'm backing you off. I'm really backing you off. I'm backing you off.
Okay, I'm going to have to swing around this way then and position myself here.
So again, you're safe from my swing. You have a keen view of the ball, and you have plugged up the biggest hole in the court, and you're going to make me have to hit a better than ever shot.
Right. So my position is going to shift around the court according to where you're hitting the ball.
To try to stake out the territory is not the right idea. The idea is you want to stay mobile and you want to get the next ball. The tee is an attitude. It is you get the best position you can get to the ball. You don't want to get in his way. Let him have his shot. Just get the next ball back.
To illustrate Tom's point about proper movement, notice how I get caught here in the front left of the court after hitting a shot, but clear back into the center in time to give Mark a clear path to the ball.
All right.
Nice shot.
So how do you play a point? It's a question I ask myself all the time. I used to think that you play any shot, anywhere, just hit it well, and you win the point. I think I'd much rather think about it in terms of you want to construct a pattern. You want to build combinations of shots together to move your opponent around the court and to make openings for him. Let's divide the court into 3 zones. Back of the court is defensive zone. Middle of the court is a cutoff zone. Front of the court, it's a counter zone.
Okay, I feel best when I'm in this cutoff zone, right in the center of the court. I have control of the tee, and I can keep pressure on my opponent. And if I get knocked out of the center of the court, out of this second zone, I want to get back here as soon as first opportunity I have.
The best thing about this is each of the zones has a separate objective, different from the others. I'm in the back of the court. It's defensive zone. It's dark, and it's dirty, and it's lonely.
You're seeing my back.
It's my only goal in life is to get out of here.
Okay, what kind of shots are you going to hit to get out of there?
On a spectrum of 6 shots, I'd probably hit 3 back down the line. I'd hit 2 across the court to keep him from poaching. I'd hit 1 short occasionally as a surprise shot to keep him from sagging back.
Okay, so most of the shots you're going to hit back there from zone 3 are back into zone 3. You're going to hit deep balls just to get control of the front of the court.
I'm going to try to make you circulate with me, try to get you out of here. Okay. Let's say I've hit a really good rail now.
Okay.
Now I'm in the cutoff zone. Everything is light. Everything is airy. I love it here. My only goal in life is, again, not to win the point. My goal in life is to keep my happy position.
Okay, so you're constantly keeping me under pressure when you're there.
I'm trying to work you either side to side or on the diagonals.
So most of the balls that you hit from the cutoff zone are either to zone 1 or 3.
Zone 1 or 3, and I'm trying not to give up zone 2. I'm willing to go back. If you hit a good ball too, I'm willing to circulate, but I'm going to distinguish myself by being eager to cut it off, by trying to keep my position and not give it up.
All right, good. Now suppose I take you to the front of the court. I hit a bow shot or a good drop, and I send you up to zone 1.
Now it's different. This is a swing situation. This is a chance to finish a point. It's a chance to get yourself into trouble. The time now is for you to be precise, to be decisive, to either keep it in zone 1 or get it back to zone 3.
Okay, so you're either going to leave the ball short or you're going to hit it back deep into zone 3.
To keep it short, I'll probably hit a good drop, maybe a very fast angle, or if I'm going to hit it back to zone 3, I had better hit it fast. I better hit a low screamer so Mark can't cut it off.
So you're thinking about getting back to zone 2 as soon as possible when you're up there.
And to not let you take the ball in zone 2.
Good. All right, so think about playing smart squash. Think about where you are in the court, which zone you're in, and what kind of shot you're going to hit from there.
Watch during this sequence as Mark and I concentrate on our racket preparation and firmly keeping the head of our racket up above our wrist. We don't want to let our wrists dangle and hang loosely down by our sides. We're trying to keep our motions concise and tight and not waste any energy going into the stroke. Mark displays excellent use of zonal theory here. By moving me from zones 1 to 3, he gains control with this drop shot. He follows it up with a deep rail to the backhand side that I barely get. He then executes the perfect winner with a reverse corner that drives me again into the front of the court. perfect use of 1-2-3 zonal theory.
This is a ball, this is an apple, and this is an orange. We want to talk for a minute about watching the ball, but to illustrate this, we're going to ditch the ball. One of the problems that people have is that they get too close in when their opponent is striking the ball. They bring their vision in, all they watch is the ball, and in fact what they miss is what the opponent does when he hits the ball. So we've got to change our focus a little bit from total ball consciousness all the time to one that allows for our vision to see the opponent strike the ball. One of the myths, or one of the thoughts that's very ingrained in racket sports, is always watch the ball. But squash is too fast. Squash, the racket work is too fast, the pace of the ball is too fast, so we have to make another subtle change. What I'm talking about doesn't mean that you take your focus from the ball when you strike it. When you're about to hit the ball, you watch the ball come in, you watch the contact, and then you watch the ball leave your strings, definitely for control and precision and continuity. But at that point, we make the change. And that is now, if this is the striker, this is your opponent, and this is the ball coming towards him, I'm not going to have my focus totally on the apple, as the apple comes in and then wings away, so that I have no knowledge of how it was hit. I begin to move my focus from total centering on the apple to the edge of my peripheral vision, and I begin to pick up the orange so that I can see my opponent's shape, turn, twist, bend, and I watch the face of the racket. I see what the hand is doing, I see what the body is doing and the wrist is doing, and then I know when the apple is struck, I know what's been imparted to it, the spin, the speed, and the height. But if I focus just on the apple as it comes in and leaves, I don't have any of that information. So I move my focus as the ball comes to my opponent. I move it so that I watch my opponent. I watch that orange. I want to make sure I pick up all the information. This is particularly true when I'm on the tee. If I hit a ball down the forehand side, I am not going to watch the ball hit the front wall and travel back across with my centered vision on it all the way to my opponent. I'll miss the important information. So I watch it hit the front wall, and then I turn and I watch my opponent. I watch that orange and see what's coming out of it. What's the shape? What's the speed? And then when the ball is struck, I know what's happening. So think about your apples and oranges when you go on the court.
Sometimes it's not the shot that wins the point, it's the shot that sets up the shot that wins the point. In this point, Mark is totally in control. He's got me going all over the court. He hits a drop volley, I respond with a bad shot. He hits a great deep rail, and then the drop volley again, a 1-2. This point shows Mark and I striving for control of the tee, both of us working to move our opponent off of the tee and open up the court for our own offense. I return the serve deep down the backhand rail with a volley. Mark sets up, clearly executes again a backhand rail deep to the left side. My response is a weak 3-wall that sets him up at front, and he takes the offensive with a forehand reverse corner. I lunge to the forehand side to pick up the ball and send it cross court again, and Mark stabs the ball in his backhand safely to the front wall, but he leaves me in front and I execute offensively with a forehand roll corner. The ball sets up off the side wall, and Mark responds with a 3-wall that takes me in front again. He comes to the tee, I execute a reverse, but I leave him room on the backhand side for a perfect response. He takes the ball deep down the rail on the backhand. I dig the ball out, but I've set him up again by leaving him short in front, and he hits a reverse corner to the forehand side that makes me run diagonally up into the court and lift a weak ball over my head that he clearly puts away for a winner down the backhand rail. Perfect execution of strategy. Striking the ball is important, but just as important is moving to the ball and anticipating your opponent's shot. Both Mark and I here are moving from the center of the tee outwards to the sides, but we're still concentrating on what our opponent is doing. We're not letting our vision get focused just on the front wall. We watch the ball as we stroke it, but then we watch our opponent shape and turn as he prepares to hit the ball. If we don't watch our opponent and we don't keep moving in the court, we're going to get locked up. That's going to prevent us from moving quickly. If you watch Mark, he's intently gazing at me the whole time that I go to strike the ball. He keeps his legs spread and his knees bent so that he's ready to move quickly, and he's always on that tee. This is a point that doesn't have many patterns. I hit a hard serve that drives Mark to take it off the backhand, reversing himself from a normal forehand shot, but he leaves himself in the center of the court by putting the ball deep to the forehand again. In the early part of this point, Mark and I are feeling each other out. We're probing to find a weakness. We're upsetting the patterns, trying to break the flow, cause the other person to make a mistake. We're holding our rackets, trying to be a little bit deceptive with the ball. Our motion in the court is totally geared towards staying on that tee. Both of us are pushing each other off with each shot and trying to get there and stay there. Mark hits the ball deep down the backhand side here. My response is not deep enough, and he hits a 3-wall that brings me up short. I hit a forehand reverse. He responds with a 3-wall, again trying to counter me, misdirect me. I hit a reverse corner off the forehand. He sneaks around me and hits the ball deep to the backhand. It's trouble. I reach around with a long stroke and pull it down the backhand again. But neither of us really clearly getting an opportunity here for a winner. My between-the-legs shot is short, but Mark leaves the ball short and vulnerable in the front right, and I snap a cross-court low and deep, 2 bounces, and a winner.
For me, squash is the most exciting and demanding sport in the whole world. I find it so stimulating, both physically and mentally. I think anybody who's a real squash enthusiast can appreciate that. It's a lot of fun to play and to get out there and hit that ball around and run around on the court. I love the movement and the action of the game. I've been playing this sport since I was 7 years old, and I still feel like I'm learning all the time. My game's constantly changing. I'm not afraid to change my game. I'm learning new techniques and strokes all the time. I wouldn't trade my career for anything. So I hope the video we've done will help your game some. Get out in the court and give it a try, because that's where the fun is.